I mentioned last week that we were going to talk about rebuilding trust. And after the events that happened since then, between then and now, that's more important than ever. Greetings, Earthlings. I'm Dr. Will, and welcome to Dr. Will Presents. So a large demonstration in Washington, D.C. during the counting of the electoral votes turns into a riot. Didn't see that coming. If you'd like more content like this, or like what this is going to be, then subscribe and check the little bell on the bottom. That way you'll get notified of new content. Rebuilding trust is damnably difficult, especially when there are people who stoke mistrust for their personal gain. And there are plenty of those on all sides right now. Mistrust is toxic to a nation and to a people. The analogy that can be drawn here between trust in personal relationships and within the nation is valid here. If something has been done to destroy trust, a chipping away at it over time, or a large single betrayal, doesn't matter. It takes time to rebuild that trust. It takes time, effort, and a willingness to work at it in order to rebuild that trust. If there is a lack of any of one of those three things, then trust is not going to be rebuilt. And if trust is not rebuilt, then you're going to continue down a path towards chaos. Note that it's always easier to destroy than to build, and that is the facility with which people destroy trust in general. I mean, in personal lives as well as in the civic life of our nation, is disappointing and sad. Rebuilding that trust, or building trust in the first place, is hard and difficult to do. And so when people actively seek to destroy that trust, when people actively seek to destroy that trust, there's a serious problem there. It takes time to rebuild trust. And you can't just rebuild trust by saying, look, you just have to trust me, because you know what? No, I don't. The first step has to be admitting that each party or all parties share somewhat in the dissolution of trust in the first place. This can be a very difficult first step, because many people in their own enclave, in their own kind of defensive crouch, will sit there and go, well, you did something to destroy trust. I am guiltless in this matter. There are cases where, yes, there's a single unwarranted betrayal, or there is a gaslighting or a chipping away over time of at the relationship, at the foundations of the relationship. I don't think that's the case here. I think both sides, all sides, have been guilty to a greater or lesser extent, to some or any extent, and in chipping away at that mutual trust within our society and within the social fabric. That doesn't mean that people will admit that. It means that they should. And if they don't, then each of the remaining sides, and because I think there's more than two here, each of the remaining sides are going to continue in their defensive crouch and going to keep avoiding trusting the others. And if we don't trust each other, if we don't have trust in our institutions, and that's part of it, and the trust in institutions has been degraded to a great extent. All institutions, the media, academia, churches, the government, and then people amongst each other and the different political parties, all of these elements of society have started to mistrust each other. The resolution of this mistrust has to begin with communication. And we have to be willing to talk to each other. And by communication, I don't mean sticking our thumb in each other's eyes. That generally does not lead to mutual understanding. So it has to start with listening to each other. And that is going to be difficult because we're going to react emotionally immediately and instantly, and we're going to try to maintain our innocence in this breakdown of trust. So, but we have to step back and look at what's being said by each other. Trying to or threatening to beat each other into submission or silence is not the path of wisdom here. It is not going to result in a return to a peaceful and civil society. So stop it. So when you hear a statement by somebody with whom you disagree or with whom you think you might disagree, do the following. So first, actually listen to what they say. Second, try to understand what they have said. Third, decide how you want to respond to that. And that means deciding what your objective is in the conversation, as well as what it is you exactly want to say in response to what was just said. And finally, go ahead and make your response. Make your response if you think it'll do any good. If you don't think it'll do any good, engaging in histrionics is not going to advance the cause of peace and civil society. This is actually called the ODA Loop. It's a observe, orient, decide, act loop that we have to engage in as we encounter people. We have to be still. We have to be interested enough in the peaceful resolution of our current disagreements that we're willing to give the other party an opportunity to speak. And everybody needs to do that. I have heard that people who have said, well, everybody needs to do this, that they are accused of that being a position being taken by a side. If we cannot even try to start the conversation, then that conversation will never happen. Conversation doesn't happen, we won't communicate. We won't communicate, we won't rebuild trust. If we don't rebuild trust in the society and in our country, then we've got a very bad time in front of us. Look, fear is toxic, and there's a lot of fear these days. Fear of the pandemic, fear of what's going to happen. Fear causes hate. People hate what they fear, and hate makes us stupid. So what we have to do is we have to be encouraged to develop some courage in our response to the world around us, to have faith that we can handle things that come up and hope for a better future, and treat each other with charity. And that is going to be the way that we're going to get it through all of this. And when I say all of this, I mean all of this. Our nation has enemies, and our enemies are watching what happens next. So we need to be on our side, all of our side, and not allow the forces of hate and fear to drive us. Be still. Remember the ODA Loop. Observe, orient, decide, and act. But you have to do that from a place of a centered place of stillness, so that you're not reacting out of fear, reacting out of hate or passion. Oh yeah, there are rumors that there are plans for demonstrations in the state capitals and in Washington, D.C. on Inauguration Day. Want my advice? Don't do it. Go to church. I know it's a Wednesday. It'll be a Wednesday. I know it'll be a Wednesday, but go to church anyway. Prayer, and you might try fasting. Prayer and fasting for our nation. So that is going to do more good than stoking the fear and concern of others by a show of mass force. If that's your plan, that's not going to advance our nation or improve our country. Well, that's it for me, for you for now. Be at peace, be still. I hope that the rest of this year will treat us all much, much better. So you all take care out there. You be safe. I'll be seeing you. Bye.